Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with the channel or are watching this channel for the very first time, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because on this platform we discuss everyday issues, but not everyone uses logic. So for that reason, it is called uncommon sense. I just want to let everybody know that um, currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who have already subscribed to the channel. I want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices. I also want to give a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media. So, what I'm going to ask is the following. If you have not done so, please subscribe, like, and bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity to either catch it live or catch it on the playback. Um, First of all, I just want to apologize because I have to make some last minute changes regarding tonight's stream. Scheduled for 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the topic was how to bring sanity to the holidays. And on that, for that stream, I had a special guest who was going to come and co-host with me. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond her control, she was not available. So I did the responsible thing. That stream will be rescheduled for Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will have the stream. There was a stream that was scheduled for tomorrow, but we're going to do it for tonight, uh, which is what makes a cult. Now, it is a serious discussion to explain the facts and to give the truth. I just want to let everybody know that the subscriber mode function is on, meaning that anyone who wishes to enter a comment in the chat must be a subscriber. And the reason for that is to try to control the movement with the polls. Okay. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna ask that you please like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to all. So that being said, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just give me a moment. If my computer cooperates, okay. Um, this is going to be one of those nights. So, excuse me, just okay. Just give me a moment. I might have to refresh the server because it seems to be Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna just give me a moment. I'm gonna try to drop the link if my computer cooperates. Okay. 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 Okay, I apologize, people. These things do happen. Uh, Now let me just. Okay, let me just explain to you uh, what is a cult, and is often attributed to this: a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. Okay, and it's usually a small group of people characterized by such devotion. Okay, now let me explain to you the origin of the word cult. Cult, which shares an origin with culture and cultivate, comes from the Latin curtus, a noun which meaning ranging from tilling, cultivation, and training. In English, cult has evolved a number of meanings following a fairly logical path. The earliest known uses of the word recorded in the 17th century broadly denoted worship. On here, cult came to refer as a special branch of religion that rites or practices or that branch, as in the cult of deities. By early 18th century, cult could be referred to as a non-religious admiration or devotion, such as a person, idea, or fad. Finally, by the 19th century, the word became used as a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. Okay. So basically, it's something that's considered outside the realm of the normal. Okay. Um, Usually, it has certain beliefs which have been rejected um, by most religious organizations. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you. Just give me a moment. Uh, Now I'm going to share with you an article regarding, okay, 7 infamous cults. Okay, and it was written by Britt Stevens, April 26, 2019. First of all, I just want to acknowledge the fact that it's currently 4 train. I want to say thank you very much. I'm just going to read the article. I'll just saying that I am obsessed with cults. Why I am obsessed with cults? Yes. God, I wish I had an answer for you. That just always fascinating for some reason. Maybe because I can't picture myself giving up everything to follow someone blindly. Except maybe Beyonce is the beehive of a cult. With the cult-like government we have now here in the States now, I couldn't help think about the famous real-life cults that have both intrigued and scared the crap out of me for years. Uh, from the ones which probably know, like the Manson family, to the ones you may not know. Here are 7 sects that are crazy, dangerous, and creepy as heck. Okay. Some of these cults can be really extreme and very dangerous. So let me start with of course, the Manson family. The Manson family, one of the most notable cults in pop culture, were a group of wayward hippies founded by Ronald 1967. After forming a quasi commune in San Francisco and moving to Los Angeles, the family committed a brutal string of murders in the summer of 1969 that included supermarket executive Lino La, Bianca and his wife Rosemary. Folgers copied Alice Abigail Folger and actress Sharon Tate, who starred in Bob the Dog and was 8 months pregnant with her husband Roman Polacci's first child. Manson was obsessed with the Beatles, particularly the White Album, and told his followers about his own theories about social upheaval and plans to start a race war that he called Helter Skelter after the Beatles' hit song. His insistence on this resulted in the group's attempt to blame their grisly crime African Americans, specifically the Black Panthers, by leaving chilling messages and symbols written in their victims' blood. In October 1969, Manson and a handful of his followers, the majority of them were young women, were apprehended. After a lengthy trial, the murderers were given the death penalty, but when it was abolished in California in 1972, sentences for all the members were commuted to life imprisonment. On November 19, 2007, the famous cult leader died at the age of 83. Now, the second example of a dangerous cult is called the Branch Davidians. The Branch Davidians are a religious cult that actually originated in the 1950s, but their movement made headlines in 1980-93, where then leader David Koresh entered into a standoff with that ended in the deaths of nearly 80 cult members, including himself, Koresh. His real name, Vernon Howell, was a 33-year-old Houston, Texas native who also joined the Branch Davidians at their Waco compound in 1982. Changed his name to Dick, began claiming he was a prophet. He did everything you expect a cult leader to do: manipulate minds, control actions, force followers to perform sex acts on him because women were required to be his spiritual wives. In February 1993, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms raided the Waco complex on suspicion of polygamy, child sexual abuse, and illegal weapons violations. Cult members opened fire and there was a shootout, during which 4 ATF officials and 5 French civilians, and a siege was initiated by the FBI. The standoff lasted for a staggering 51 days before the FBI started poking holes in the roof of the house in order to pump tear gas and force them to leave without harming them. Several French civilians fired shots, and even after 6 hours, no one came out. 3 fires broke out almost simultaneously in different areas of the complex, and the place was captured on national TV. According to the FBI, the fires were by French civilians, even though the FBI did not fire any shots that day. Autopsy records of the 79 deceased confirmed that at least 20 civilians were shot, including children, and a 3-year-old boy was stabbed. The medical examiner believed these. See, we have here the presence of Donna Red by. I understand that you have a stream going on tonight, so I appreciate you stopping by. Okay. As for David Koresh, authorities confirmed that he was shot by the fire engulfed the Waco complex. The FBI believes that Steve Schneider, Koresh's right hand, probably realized he was dealing with a fraud and shot and killed Koresh before committing suicide with the same gun. Okay. So one of the things that happens when you're dealing with a cult, it is manipulation. Um, Usually, a handful of people or one person has complete control over others. Now, I'm going to be talking about Heaven's Gate. Um, let's see. Oh, Heaven's Gate. I remember this whole thing pretty vividly. As a preteen growing up in Southern California, the footage of bodies lying in bunk beds draped in all black and wearing Nike running shoes like comic hip hop spaceship that they were all trying to leap on, and ridiculously unhinged look on the cult leader Marshall Applewhite's face and photo splash all over the news. Marshall Applewhite founded Heaven's Gate in 1970s along with Bonnie Nettles, 30 while staying in a psychiatric hospital. They bond over shared interest in Bible prophecy and extraterrestrials and began to recruit disciples. It was in 1975 that Applewhite convinced the crew to sell their earthly belongings, say goodbye to their loved ones, and essentially disappear. In a San Diego mansion in March 1997, Marshall Applewhite and 38 of his followers drank liquor sauce and vodka and laid down to leave their bodies and enter an alien spacecraft and follow their power through Heaven's Gate into a level of existence above human. Found wearing matching black shirts and sweatpants and the brand new Nike decades, as it was believed that they perished over the course of 3 days. Many of the body had begun decomposing in the spring heat. The mass suicide was creepy, but even creepier is the fact that Heaven's Gate website is still up and running in the terrible 90s. Okay, so now I'm gonna be talking about the children of God. The Children of God was founded in 1968 by David Moses Berg, yes, who dedicated his life to preaching against evolution, moral decay, and Western society. But you know what he preached for? Pedophilia. That's right. Oh, sex with children. And young female children of God members were used to debate and literally lure in new cult members. The tactic was 30 and was derived by a Bible verse in which Jesus tells two fishermen that they will make them fishers of men. David Burke died in 1994 at a time which a follower named Karen Zerby took over. And I see here we have a guest. So before I continue, I just want to let everybody know that the views of those who appear on the panel are not necessarily those of to copyright the material without the consent of the host of the channel is prohibited. By appearing on the call, you waive your rights to your image. Some of the views people may hold may be considered offensive to some people. If you do not like the content, you can block the channel. And I'm going to try to bring in my guest.
Hello, Dom
Good
Jose. How
evening.
you doing? Good evening. I
Okay, how
mean,
you doing tonight?
I'm all right. And you're talking about the topic is about cults, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I know
Actually,
that
I had a different topic. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
it's
Go
like
ahead.
for cults and everything like that. I know that there's been a whole bunch of I guess cult like behavior or whatsoever. Actually, in these YouTube streets, that you have certain content creators that actually treat their followers like they're a cult.
Yes.
So it's like I don't know what what are the modern cults, but I know that there's a lot of history within the past cults, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I agree. I was just giving a couple of examples of some real dangerous cults. But there are some organizations which can be interpreted as cults today. Part of it, one is, of course, we have the mega crowd and the fact that they treat Donald Trump as he's not a think a man in his late 70s. He's a failure in business. He's a failure in marriage. He was a failure as a president of the United States, but yet millions follow him blindly.
Yeah, it's like I don't get it. And it's like I hear a lot of people who have the rhetoric. It's not only him, but I hear a lot of people that are actually having the rhetoric. Now they're saying like, "I wish we had a Republican because Republican have less crime and everything." But then you actually see there's like a racist undertone behind it. So it's certain people that I even in the
Yeah.
YouTube comments, they'll be like, "Oh, I guess they're not gonna say anything because we all know what color the suspect was or something like that." So I'm like, get a break.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, you have certain creators that treat their channels as a echo chamber. And heaven forbid if you should say something that's slightly uh, different from what they are talking about.
Mm, trust me. It's like certain quote unquote failed content creators. They always want to worship Trump. I'm like, okay, let's put it like this. Let's put it in perspective. Um, a lot of these people who actually they say Trump or whatever, right? They're like, well, he didn't mean that because you
Yeah.
always just like the Dems distort the media. I'm like, okay, so if Dems are supposed to actually distort the media, how come technically everybody distorts the media, and then when a person try to do whatsoever, most of the people who actually supported Trump's are I'm not saying all, but you have certain people who are racist within the political collective. I'm saying both as far as Democrats and Republicans and certain
Hmm.
people of their own racial interest or whatsoever the case may be. So my thing
Yeah.
is that okay, if a person's Republican, right? They want to have the front that most Republicans are Christian and whatsoever. And then you got some Republicans that they just don't really care about religion at all. They just care about a tax break. And then they try to say,
Hmm.
"Oh, we expound the values or whatsoever." When the fact is that maybe their ancestors or whatsoever are the this, that there are the descendants of the racist Dixie Democrats that was under Strom Thurmond until I guess the Democratic Party started to go towards the line of equality in the United States. So Strom Thurmond went up and flipped Republican, and now that's why we actually have certain racist Republicans. So it's
Well,
actually like
you
a
know what?
matter of ideologies that certain
Mhm.
people are just actually too immature to actually realize that they can't really have anything civil. It's like to the point right now. You have citizens who actually don't like another person or whatsoever the case may be, and we're acting like we're supposed to be quote unquote the most civilized democracy in the world, but yet we're fighting like parliament in India. Well, not the politicians per se, but I'm just saying the public.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to be honest, if we're going to be honest regarding this country's history,
Right.
there's a lot of good. There's also a lot of bad. Okay. What I mean by bad, this country has a very long history of not treating people who are different very well. And it goes, first of all, it started um, with a group of so called African indentured servants in 1619. And that led to 250 years of enslavement in the United States. And if you factor in Latin America, 3 years. Then you have the fact of the mistreatment of the so-called indigenous people. We made numerous treaties with them, which we violated. We spread disease and death to these people. We took their land by force, and when they, when they decided to defend themselves, they were killed without mercy. Then you have how the Irish came and how they were discriminated, mainly because they were Catholic. And then you have the Chinese who came over, which built the railroads, and they were discriminated against. And then during World War II, thousands of Japanese Americans in internment camps for fear that they would betray the United States and join our enemies, including today the treatment regarding the undocumented. Many are treated horribly. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, it was not correct. It was not proper to get understand the reason why. So there's a long history of we not treating others who look differently very well.
Right.
And then you have a lot of uproar in the Dominican Republic regarding the situation with the Haitians, and people forget
Which is all
that
technically
each country has
propaganda,
yeah.
because I was actually talking, like, I guess it was a channel or something like that. I forgot what channel we were talking about, but it was like even the Bahamas, they were saying that they were getting slack for, I guess, turning away Haitian immigrants, because unlike the Dominican Republic, right? And there was actually a broadcast about this, about when Haitians actually go to the Dominican Republic. In the
Hmm.
Bahamas, right? Whenever a Haitian ever sets foot in within that land or whatever, they have to do like a whole bunch of tests on these Haitian immigrants just to see what type of disease they have and everything like that. But yet no, but yet at the time, this is like around maybe around 2012 or so, whatever the case may be. It was like, so how, but yet they always do that, but yet when we try to do something, the world want to say that we're wrong for turning them in or stuff like that. When the fact is that other countries, they have way more stricter guidelines when it comes to Haiti. But yet
Hmm.
Dominican
Yeah.
Republic always has the fault.
Now, mhm,
So,
yeah.
and then on top of it,
Now,
there's a there's a TikTok culture, right? That now that, like, say if Dominican is actually saying like he's proud or whatever, No, nobody's dissing anybody, right? So I remember I went up and I was like, yeah, I'm just talking about my people and everything like that on TikTok. There's this Haitian saying we like was telling me that, oh, we're gonna take over DR and whatsoever. Y'all not a country like Dominican Republic is gonna be ours and everything like that. So I told him at the end of the day, you could go around and say what you want, but guess what? There'll be a whole bunch of Dominicans that are going to defend their nation. So therefore, you could go with all that anti Dominican rhetoric that you want, but Dominicans are actually fighting against this because there's been, I guess, I would say it's been there, it's always been there between the founding of Dominican Republic in 1844, but it's actually more prevalent right now.
Mhm.
And it started right after the earthquake. Dominican Republic went up and gave a lot of Haitians, help during that earthquake, right? So after a while, it's like maybe
Yes.
1 or 2 years later, you have a certain part of the Haitian community that are saying like, "Oh, we're gonna take over DR, and y'all not a nation or whatsoever the case may be." And it's been manifesting for a lot of years when you actually talking about social media, etc. So therefore, you will have actually see Dominicans and Haitians who actually live on the states actually going at it with each other. And then in Dominican Republic, it's actually a different animal because you have some Dominicans and you have some Haitians who actually go at it in the streets and on the social media websites as well. So it's a
Yeah.
crazy animal. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. That's why I think it was it last night or the other night before on trying to think Mr. Anthony Ali's channel when they
Hmm.
were talking about the situation in the Dominican Republic with the Haitians. That's why I said before you cast any judgment regarding the Dominican Republic and what's going on, at least study and read it for yourself and get the facts. And then after that, you decide who's right and who's wrong. Because
And and
what's
then on
not
top of
known
it,
is that the
and then on
Dominicans
top of it,
how
just
many
been like mhm. Sorry, Don Jose, you can speak.
okay, no, I was just saying. So that's the reason why I'm saying before you make any comments regarding the DR and do your research. And what's not known is that many of it help many of the Haitians. Am I right or am I wrong?
Right, and it's like it's just when you're actually talking about that and everything, it's a topic that will get everybody fired up. I don't care who you are. And then on top of it, to actually add to the confusion, you have certain African Americans, right, that don't know nothing from nothing.
Hmm.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So they'll be like, okay, you guys are. They want to try to say you guys. They'll try to say you guys are racist and everything like that. And 9 times out of 10, they might or might not have went to the DR, right? But then if you actually look at it, some of these guys who we call hoteps, are just soothsayers, and I'll tell you why I say they're soothsayers. They're soothsayers because they want to tell you something that sounds good on paper whatsoever. When the fact is they have nothing to back it up. That's why you have
Mhm.
certain people when, let's say, when you talk intelligently about certain topics, the first thing they'll go and they'll talk about is Kemet, right? And Egyptology or
Mhm.
whatsoever, or whatever esoteric knowledge that they think that they possess. And then 9 times out of 10, when they actually come with certain stuff of that matter, they get they get disappointed when they actually find out that they're actually being lied to, and there was deceit by a trained college professor, or actually an educated college professor.
Mhm.
And when that happens, that's why it would actually create cult like
Mhm.
behavior. And then people with that cult like behavior mindset, when they'll actually go and they'll try to attack fellow my fellow Dominicans on who they are and stuff. They're like, oh, why the heck you doing this? Not knowing that there's a history of dislike and contempt between those two nations. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people back in the day that they used to actually have good relations with Haiti. But then, over the years, it's like you have certain people in the Haitian government or Dominican government. It's like we're cordial, but then between the people, it's you have certain people who are mad because of what happened in 1937. So what happened in 1937, the Parsley Massacre, where a lot of Haitians were murdered under the Trujillo regime. You had you have Haitians who I guess who are the descendants or whatsoever. They passed that hatred towards their children, and then you have certain people in the Dominican Republic that grew up under the Trujillo era. They actually passed their hatred to Haitians to other kids, and now as we stand here in 2022, every, we're actually dealing
Mhm.
with the descendants based on personal and historic hatred. So that's what's actually going on.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's dangerous about the cults is that when you allow one person full control, full over your life, your livelihood, and your possessions and whatnot, I mean, you're susceptible to do anything that a sane person would never do. Now, a good example of this is the People's Temple. Okay,
Yeah,
now he's a person that appeared to be very charismatic. Okay, he founded, so-called church. Um, However, in the course of time, he transformed himself into this delusional, drug dependent freak. And then you have
all right.
thousands of followers who follow him blindly to the point where they went to South America to form a commune. And of course, we know what happened in 1978 when a
You talked
congressman
about Jim Jones, right?
went down to, yeah,
Yeah,
went
I
down
heard
to
that
see
story
what's
too
going
many
on.
times.
Killed, yeah. So Jim Jones led almost 1,000 of his followers to commit mass suicide.
Hmm.
Now that's scary when you think about it.
Now, you want to know what's scarier? What happened in Japan?
Well,
Okay, I don't know if you ever heard of that cult called Om Shimri Ko, right? Kyo, right? So this guy, Shoko Asahara, right? I guess you're familiar with the story that came out in
mhm,
Japan. That this guy went up and had a lot of his followers um put sarin gas like in garbage pails in Japan and everything like that. So a lot of
yeah,
people passed passed away because of that, because of his actions, and he was later executed. But most of the members that did that was under his cult, and they actually held him um culpable for that because he was telling his followers that, oh, the end of the world is near, whatever, so prepare. So they thought that preparing was like to go kill people, whatsoever the case may be. I may be paraphrasing, but he actually had a crazy following in Japan before he got caught and was executed. So
mhm. Um, yeah.
and
Let's
then
see.
and then it's and then it's actually crazy. That's all I gotta say.
Are you familiar with a man called Harold Camping?
Yo, don't get me
Okay.
started. My mom, right? God rest her soul, always used to listen to that man's show, Family Radio, right? Now, let me remind you
Yeah.
something. And we as Christ believers could always attest to this. A man cannot go and tell when is the end of the world.
Mhm,
Now, 2012 happened, right? And this is what it was like, oh, 2012, it's going to
mhm,
happen and everything, right? And Harold Camping, before, he actually had predicted
mhm,
5 times that the world was going to end, but it never really came to pass. So when 2012 happened, and I guess of
mhm,
certain stuff that happened, I was like, there was a female holding like, well, the world's gonna end, and this was like in Flushing, and I was going to my job, right? And I was like, yo, since the world's gonna end, can I get your number?
mhm,
And we just, and my boy was, when I told my boy that, he was like, well, you're kind of wrong for that. I was like, nah, not really, because if you actually read the Bible, you could tell that no man will ever know when that day is gonna happen. So for that guy to go and actually say
yeah.
that actually goes against the teachings of Christianity, and he's saying all this stuff. Now in Revelation, they say there'll be signs of the times and everything like that. But just for some one man to go around and say, "Oh, this is gonna happen," we're not gonna believe you. We just have to believe what the Bible said, not
Mhm,
what Harold Camping have to say.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, one of the and his one of his last pronouncements was that Jesus was going to come back on May 21st, 2011. May 21st, 2011 came. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
So then he said, oh, he's going to come on October 21st, 2011. Well,
Oh
October
wow.
21st, 2011 came, and guess what? Uh, there was no second coming. Um,
Yeah.
unless you want to say the day she became born again as a second coming. I mean, other than that, but the Bible warns about such people like that, and in fact, the Bible warns about people who claim to speak prophetic utterances in the name of God, and the prophecy does not come to pass. It says, "Do not
Thank
do
you.
not believe in these people."
Yeah, and that's why I feel about another
But
preacher by the name.
tragedy behind all this.
Yeah, it's like there's another preacher, right?
Mhm.
By the name of Pastor Manning, and he actually
Yeah.
has the church called Atlaw Baptist Church or something like that in Harlem, right? So his thing is that he
Yes.
has anti LGBTQ slogans in his church or whatsoever. So one day he went up and had a sermon of I guess certain people of that
Hmm.
community that they're supposed to get a cancer in where the sun don't shine. So this guy is actually preaching about how
Hmm.
certain people are gonna get a cancer behind their where the sun don't shine. And he was actually ranting on and ranting on, and a lot
The
of
rectum.
people, well, to bluntly say it, yeah. Um, so he was actually butting on about how this supposed cancer is gonna make a fire around that area for men who are of the LGBT community. So he was ranting on,
Hmm.
and a lot of people have made nonsensical memes about it. So you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
See, when it comes to and with the church, that because what what biblical Christians believe and what the Bible has to say on the subject. But even dealing with the LGBTQ community, you cannot be spewing hate towards them. Okay, uh, you can show respect, you can show love, not necessarily agree with their lifestyle, but respect their lifestyle.
yeah. It's like I had a friend, right? At first, me and this guy wasn't friends
Mhm.
because I had to tell people, even my LGBT friends, like I was not at a time in my life I was not susceptible, nor um nor how shall I say actually was respectful towards the LGBTQ community. I was actually the opposite.
Uh-huh.
But what changed was I had a friend that she was a lesbian, and she treated me with so much respect that she and her wife was went up and they saw me and we were just talking. And this was at my former
Okay.
um place of employment called, which I'm going to say, which was called OAC. Now, after a while,
Mm-hmm.
she passed away from a heart attack or whatsoever the case may be. So when she passed away,
Mm-hmm.
her I want I went to like a venue because I was into underground hip hop. So for some reason it felt like she was around there or stuff. So I was at the performance and everything like that, and I linked up with one of the guys who was in the performance and everything. So we're just vibing or whatever. We was saying like, "Hey, how you doing?" It was just like a nice support area at this vent at this underground hip hop venue. Now, to make a long story short, I went to my friend's funeral like on that Monday, right? Lo and behold, while I'm just there, to pay my respects and
Mm-hmm.
everything, I see that guy that I met in the
Mm-hmm.
venue. And it turns out that the guy was actually her son. Or she raised him like a son. You get what I'm trying to say? So when we actually saw each other, like,
Yes.
oh yeah, oh yeah, that's the dude from the club. And it was like, and they was wondering like, yo, you knew her? I'm like, yeah, I worked with her and such like that. And ever since then we actually have like a dialogue of respect even to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing is very important when you're dealing with people um, who are into cults. Um, it's very important that we be patient with them because who knows why people join a cult. Sometimes
Yeah.
their self-esteem is very low and they need a place where they belong. So unfortunately, when the cult sees these type of people, they easily fall prey. Okay. Um,
Mhm.
Also, we need to be mindful about mind control techniques and how certain cults use those techniques to try to uh, dominate and control the members
Yeah.
and try to develop a respectful, friendly relationship with these people. Because
Yeah.
these people are hurt, they're vulnerable, so therefore, they're easy prey uh, for people who are who leads in cults.
Yeah. It's like,
So let's go ahead.
but the thing is though, sometimes it's not even about charismatic or anything like that. It actually goes to the gift. I guess what they'll say is the gift of gab or whatsoever the case may be. And you will have certain people that'll have that.
Yes,
Certain people might use it for good,
that's true.
or certain people will use it for malign practices. And to me, you have certain people even within let's just say your personal life, they'll try to actually use cult like behavior. And then when you actually see that certain people are not susceptible, now one of the things that future or current cult members will use as part of as far as as a personal manipulation, they'll try to say the first thing is, "Oh, you're crazy." Now, if you have a whole bunch of people who will tell you that you're crazy just for standing your beliefs, oh well, you're crazy. But then the thing is, though, that could be also interpreted as cult like behavior because certain people are swayed by person, how should I say, charisma and everything like that. they'll actually turn against you just because they feel um a closeness with this guy just because he's actually adept to manipulating another person's feelings.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's very true. Which is, we need to be about the fact that the cults do exist, and we need to be mindful. You know, if there's people who are involved in these cults, we do need to show patience towards these people and not be judgmental.
Yeah, and it's like if you actually look at it, right? A cult nowadays could be anything. You know what I'm trying to say? A cult could be a cult. I'm just saying, like in the sense, could be anything. And certain gangs, I'm saying throughout, or what we call
Yeah,
criminal organizations, can be a can be a cult. If you get what I'm trying to say,
yeah.
yeah.
And when I see certain YouTube creators, I mean,
Hmm.
to be perfectly honest, they run their platforms almost like a cult.
Yes,
I mean, we're not gonna say any names because is
yeah.
it's
It's
one
very
person's
apparent,
cult
and
is
you know,
one person's cult leader is savior.
yep.
So, but it is suffice to say that some people do treat their platforms like cults. Okay,
Yes,
and another word for it is like an echo chamber.
yeah.
Okay, it is unfortunate, but that is the reality. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, have you known anyone to actually, in your opinion, belong to a cult?
Um, I'm not gonna go around and say cult, but I could actually say I've known and I've seen people who actually distribute cult-like behavior. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you a story. I didn't have I didn't have a good memory of certain people in high school, right? So certain people
Mm-hmm.
was asking me if I would go to a school reunion. I said no. If I
Mm-hmm.
do go to a school reunion, I will go to jail. And I'm just keeping it respectful
Mm-hmm.
to what I've actually said.
Yeah.
So when I was in the Dominican Republic,
Mm-hmm.
like in 2012, they was asking me about they put me I was put in a room which I've actually went up and I actually declined my offer like 5 times of me not going to this reunion. And I stated the reason why. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this was the ninth day of mourning because my uncle passed in 2012. So when I wake up in the morning on
Mm-hmm.
my cell phone and then I see that I'm put in a room and stuff, I was actually enraged. And I'll say I did not want to be a part of this. So I went off.
Mm-hmm.
Then a former alumni was like, oh, you this, you that, trying to use whatever, cult like things, whatever. And let's just say that she got the brunt of me telling her off. And then other people
Mm-hmm.
started saying, like, whatever. And then people was like, oh, this person is crazy. So therefore they developed on cult like behavior, thinking down crazy. So after a while, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, look at these sheep. So I just went up, I was like, huh. So I guess I'm officially crazy. Now, that happened like 10 years ago. Now it's on 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess by certain people, I am still crazy. But if I'm so crazy, right? Look what I've
Mm-hmm.
accomplished within these 10 years. Even though I lost both of my parents, I'm a YouTube content creator.
Mm-hmm.
I am also a husband, and I
Mm-hmm.
also work hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know too
Mm-hmm.
many crazy people that could do that. I know people that have mental issues and everything like that, but to actually try to call a person crazy, but yet they don't know the psychosis or anything like that, it's kind of like a form of misleading information and cult like behavior.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look. I mean, look. Like I said before, you know, um, you have people that blindly follow others, and that could be a dangerous sign. You know,
Yes.
because when you allow someone to completely control your life in every aspects, exposing yourself to a lot of
A lot of heartache.
stupidity
Hmm.
side on the good side. And the bad side is you're doing things, that can lead you into harming yourself or getting yourself killed,
Or you forgot the third part, going to jail.
which is that too.
That's saying going to jail because
Yeah.
there's um there's a lot of these cult members, like for example, Charles Manson, right? A lot of the people who followed him, they're
Yes.
not out. They're actually serving life sentences in jail just because of what he said. So in that aspect, what he said, I don't see how a guy like him became all this charismatic and everything like that. When the fact is, he only was talking a smooth talk to people who you and I would actually will call in these modern times drug addicts. Because if a person who is
Hmm.
actually learning and actually educated and everything like that will not actually fall for this guy's nonsense. Because let's face it, Charles Manson was not even educated.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he wasn't a college professor or whatsoever. So I don't see, so if anything, a lot of people could talk about the commune or whatsoever. In these modern times, I can't see. I could see certain people that would do it, but you have to actually have like a stressor or something traumatic to happen in life if you were to follow like in these modern days Charles Manson like character. But if you actually look at it, one major component of the fervor or whatsoever the case may be is that most of his members when they were actually like in this commune or whatsoever, and you have to remind yourself this was 1969, the era of hippie and free love and whatsoever. So a lot of people that we actually considered hippies or whatsoever the case may be were actually how should I say drug addicts, some of them. And my mother, when I used to live in when I was living in the Bronx, she used to tell me stories on how she used to see hippies sleeping under the bridge and whatsoever the case may be. And she was like, but they used to sleep in the bridge, like under the
Mm-hmm.
bridge or on the street or whatsoever, and nobody will harm these people. Try that nowadays, and people will get hurt, set on fire, and everything. But back, this is according to my mother, not to me. According to my mother, I guess when she lived in that time, when people were actually of the hippie subculture, a lot of people used to actually sleep under the bridges, and they used to actually, I guess, could say that they were living their life with no molestation or whatever the case may be of the from the authorities or other people. Other people may have not approved of their lifestyle, but there was actually living. I guess they there were different times that certain people were not even being attacked just for living their lifestyle. I guess as far as sleeping on the floors or whatsoever the case may be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is true. That is very true. And when you think about it, um, the hippies, I mean, in their own uh, way, they try to do what they can to to improve society. I mean,
right.
yeah. Excuse me, just I'm just texting someone.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, when you look, let me tell you something. In the '60s, that was a different time altogether. I mean, you were able to sleep with the doors unlocked. Okay.
exactly.
Nowadays,
Don't try that.
nope. That's so true. But unfortunately, that was that was different, totally different time period.
Yeah,
Now, unfortunately, that time period will never come back.
right.
So and the fact of the matter is this: unfortunately, as long as there are people that are hurt, people who are weak-minded, people that you know uh, that are easily persuaded, there will be um, easy prey to these people, and that's the reason why we need to be patient with these people.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you wish to share regarding the topic?
Yeah. Um,
Okay, go ahead.
Politics and faith-based systems, right? And then how should I say,
Yeah.
maybe regional affiliations. And what I mean by that is like cultural or regional affiliation can always play a role in cult like or cult building cult building abilities all over the world. Because one of the how should I say things I actually mentioned was in Japan, right? In India alone,
Yeah.
I've done my research. You have a lot of people who are how should I say they're charismatic or whatsoever, and then they either come to the United States or Europe, and then they might start their yogi practice or whatsoever, and
Mm-hmm.
then they have whatsoever. Then the next thing you know, like maybe 20 or 30 years down the line, due to what they're doing or whatsoever, they're actually accused of. There's actually a stigma within the organization as far as violations of a person's personal space and a lot of other
Mm-hmm.
filthy accusations between either or after yogi self-proclaimed yoga masters or or how should I
Mm-hmm.
say self-proclaimed swarmies. And there was a commune, I believe it was of Indian yogi or quote unquote, he's supposed to call himself a holy man. And then he had a lot of followers who were actually educated. The next thing you know, I think it was like around 1985. I might be paraphrasing
Mm-hmm.
that these guys they're actually were making their own town or whatsoever the case may be. Certain townspeople did not like them, and then they actually were to hatch a plan on how to poison all these people. But I guess most of them got arrested, and what used to be the commune is really don't anymore per se.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, and one thing we need to be careful about is casting judgment on people who do join cults. because we
Oh,
don't
I
know
really could.
fully what's going on.
Right.
Mhm. Because you know what it is, we can see when something is a cult.
Yeah.
However, when a person is is minded or easily influenced, cannot,
Yeah. It reminded me of
and that leads them to be.
yeah. It actually reminded me of
Mhm.
another it was a stream that Radical had, and there was a one of the main how should I say ideological adversaries that we have in these YouTube streets, right? I'm not going to say his name
Yeah.
because he ain't worth it. But
Hmm.
he said something which was actually interesting. That the reason that he acts like the way that he was
Okay.
acting and made himself famous for his rant or whatsoever the case may be is because he I guess he didn't have any proper guidance in his life from people who were supposed to love
Hmm.
him. And
Yeah.
I guess since his one of his parents never showed love or affection towards him, I guess in that matter, uh they were like what they were saying was okay that this guy had a weak mind, and the reason why he partakes in, I guess, in what we would call is albeit racism or whatsoever the case may be, is because of he's trying to get the
Hmm.
approval of a father that thinks the same way. So what was said is that
Hmm.
this guy easily is influenced, and he does not really have a mind of his own. So that's why I guess he partakes or made himself famous during 1920 for his
Hmm.
or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah.
at the end, that that could actually spawn cult like behavior within the process as well.
Really.
Yeah. Well, Don Jose, I'm about to leave
No.
because I know I'm supposed to be in another stream, but it was nice being on your panel, sir. And I hope
Okay.
that we
Well,
do
thank
this
you very
again.
much. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, and just be safe. And I see someone else is going to join the panel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and Al Show, how you doing by the way? I hope to
Oh,
meet you
how are
one
So
day.
you?
have
How are
I'm
you?
all
How's
right.
everyone here?
We're good. I'm at
Yeah.
I'm
I'm at
okay.
Don Jose for the third time in Parkchester after Thanksgiving. It was actually a good meeting to tell you the truth. And Don Jose actually met my little cousin.
Oh, interesting. So you guys have talked to each other outside of YouTube.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's good. So it's interesting. You were talking about someone, and you talked about how you felt this individual because of lack of guidance, parental
Right.
guidance, or some degree of parental emotional involvement, was open
Right.
to, had a mind and a personality, was open to doing things perhaps of an extremely negative nature in order to seek validation and approval from sort of male figures or potential
Right.
male, I don't know, father figures would be the words, right? So it's interesting because this isn't normally what I'm terribly interested in, like the subject, but what you're stating about personalities may say something about why individuals get into these types of organizations to begin with. They're seeking some sort of, if not approval or validation, then some sort of sense of belonging that perhaps they don't find elsewhere. And
Exactly.
this cult, if that, this, I'll be kind, they call it organization, this group,
Right.
seemingly provides that, or provides it in a way, in a way, but it does not provide it without a price. And that's the problem. So if you're looking at what distinguishes these, not so much what are they, but what distinguishes them, it's the people that join them find a certain sense of communion. They certainly find a sense of collective what they feel is collective security. But this sense of communion and collective security comes with a sort of emotional, mental, and psychological price tag, because they have to be able to essentially, in depending on the organization and the outfit, they have to basically not only condition themselves, not so much condition themselves, although it happens, but be conditioned to follow the dictates and the rules of said organization. So it's a kind of an even exchange. And I think, and I never thought about this, but now that I see this topic, that I think is essentially what they're about. It's an uneven exchange. There is an exchange here. And I think it's the average person might not understand why individuals join these entities or a part of these entities. But what they are, I think it's because there is an exchange, but it's uneven. What they get cannot be matched by what they have to do to be in that outfit, to be in that group.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, right? And so the problem is, when people hear about these institutions, it's when everything goes haywire. People's Temple relocating from San Francisco to Guyana in Jonestown and having this sort of mass compilation of bodies because of supposedly tainted, tainted drink, ostensibly. Although I don't know if I should get into it here, but I've long had my suspicions about that situation.
All right.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical about that whole. I don't want to go into detail, but I have my skeptical. Then, of course, you have Shinrikyo in Japan, and they're sarin-oriented, using sarin to attack train station. or to attack people there.
We actually talked about that.
Yeah. When things go haywire, it's when people see the sort of harvest, the sort of bitter, deadly harvest that these institutions, these organizations can produce, depending on what their modus operandi, whatever their framework is, whatever their goals are, whatever their line of attack is. But I think what's harder is now I realize, and again, this is something I've never really thought about because I never really looked into this issue or read about it or really done it. But what I realize now with this topic is that it is. I think it is, and I think what goes on is this transactional nature, but it's sort of weighted against the person who's the member. And there's also this idea of this. I think the idea of having a kind of, I think a hallmark of some of these outfits is this sort of lone figure, usually male, this paternal, this kind of patriarchal, I think controlling figure, and it's almost always male, right? I mean,
it's very interesting because you never really hear. It's very rarely you hear a female cult.
Precisely, and if it were, it would probably be women that would be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good point. And I've just again, I'm kind of spitballing here, but I'm realizing you're right. I'm putting this together, and I'm thinking, and you look at Branch Davidians, which were these offshoots of the Seventh-day Adventists. It's the same thing. You have this David Koresh. Again, you have a male leader of this organization. I mean, it's almost always men, almost always males, and it's always this intent of control and dominance. What, to use the military term, command and control. It's almost always the need for this. Although he may have a base of supporters or lieutenants or so forth, it's always this solid. I don't want to say solitary, but this individualistic leader who's making these rather at times onerous decisions and invested himself with I think enormous amount of power. And so I'm looking at this and I'm going, I guess that's, I'm looking at this, I'm going, yeah, those are kind of the hallmarks. Those are kind of the structural aspects of these kind of organizations. At the top, you have this, dear leader, so to speak. I mean, you could argue that a country like North Korea is organized in a kind of cultic fashion.
Or it's kind of like a monarchy, to tell you the truth.
Right.
Except that excuse me, I just
kind of government system.
Go ahead. Excuse me. I just want to acknowledge the fact that Jojo Squadron is in the chat. Good evening, Jojo. If you wish to join, join the panel, the link is
there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Well, I'll be leaving, Don Jose, and it was nice talking to you, Al.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
Right, take care.
Yeah, I think you raised a pretty good point there.
All right.
Okay. So, actually, originally, I planned to talk about to try to bring into the holidays. Okay, because the holidays can be a very stressful time. And actually, unfortunately, she was unable to attend. So it's been rescheduled for next week because I really want to have her input regarding how we can bring sanity to things, which led me to this stream, which was scheduled for tonight for tomorrow night. But being that I rescheduled the original stream, I figured, you know what, I might as well go ahead and discuss this topic tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting because I never gave any thought to this kind of topic. It's sort of you hear about these outfits when they crop up. And coming up here, I just started sort of intellectually spitballing, and I'm kind of realizing, like, yeah, that guy who was up here, he made a good point. He said you don't see cults with women that are, it would be interesting if there are cults. I'd be curious about that. I don't know if anyone out there in the chat, I don't know how many people in the chat, if anyone's aware of a cult that actually has any women at the top.
Are you familiar with all cult of God?
In China?
Actually, I'm referring to here in the United States.
No, I don't think so. Why?
Well, there was a cult that was formed, that was once they did, in order to encourage new members, that they will have these women offer sex, and very young women, sometimes children, to be people join their cult.
No, I can't say. Nah, never heard that. The ones that I've heard of are more along the lines of the Shinrikyo and the People's Temple and the Heaven's Gate. I think that was the name of it. Branch Davidians. Those are the ones that come to mind. Like I said, I'm not aware of one that is female oriented again, that kind of, it was interesting to think about that. Like, yeah, I don't, it's almost all, kind of male oriented, where, only in the sense that you have this kind of solid, sole male leader with, maybe people around him that do his bidding or help support him, but sole male leader that leads these organizations.
Okay. Wow. It seems like you and me have a couple of men that we've been the source of ridicule by a certain YouTube individual.
Well, okay. I guess. I haven't heard if he's talked about me lately, so I don't know. Because I've just gotten back to biracial channels. It's only been the last, I think, couple weeks or so, or less, that I've been on biracial channels. I've been on other channels and other, doing my lives and stuff like that. So I haven't had time. And I think some of the channels really haven't gone live that much. I don't think I think Gigi was live. I was there, but she hasn't gone live for the most part. I know they have
she was
podcast.
Yeah, she did do a stream a few days ago. Actually, it was the same night that they regarding to biracial people and Latinos similar concerns.
Right. That was yours, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I know you did something about that. That sounded interesting to me. Sounded a little interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Actually, on my community tab, regarding that topic, would you believe there's been 22 different comments regarding the topic?
You know what? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I think because of the cross, it's like a cross. What it does is there's a crossover there because I think you have kind of a couple of different populations that probably would react or be interested in it. So I'm not really surprised.
Mm-hmm.
That there's some reaction. I don't know how the stream went.
Actually, that actually that stream has gotten over 210 views since Sunday.
Mm. Yeah, like I said, it seems like a kind of interesting subject to ponder or like consider. So, because when I saw it advertised, I went, I didn't get to see it, but I said, no, that sounds like something that would be interesting to consider. Because I never really considered it myself.
Well, see, the whole point was to have a respectable dialogue regarding the subject. Now, of course, there's certain individuals that feel that we don't share similar concerns, and which is perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. I mean, disagree and be agreeable when we disagree. In my humble opinion, there are similar concerns that we have with our respective camps. One of them have to do with the issue of identity. Another one has to do with discrimination. Also, to some degrees, uh, not fitting in. But I also stated that as far as internal conflicts, that needs to be settled in house. I could be as sympathetic as possible regarding the issue with biracial, multiracial people, but background and show my support.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that seems like, I don't know how you can build from that, but it seems like an interesting, I don't know what the next step would be up from that, but it seems like that's kind of fertile topic for consideration, considering the reactions gotten. You might consider a number 2 for that one, like doing a part 2 maybe for that.
The big I don't know, because sometimes it can get a little dicey, so to speak.
Right.
I am aware of the fact that there are. Okay, how can I say this without sounding judgmental or whatever? But there's certain Me Too kind of made itself, you know, known a little bit during the stream, and so that's why I'm a little hesitant about doing a part 2.
I see. Okay. Well, anyway, unfortunately, I got to get going, but I noticed it,
Okay, well,
and didn't think it was something I would talk about. I don't know the subject, unfortunately, extremely well, or well at all, frankly. But yeah, I just kind of recognized or thought about a couple things, and I realized, yeah, that's kind of an interesting hallmark of these organizations. But anyway, thank you for having me.
okay, well, thank you very much. Be safe out there.
You too.
So what I'm going to do is, if no one else wishes to join the panel, or any further, although there's no further comment, I'm going to start to wrap this up. Now, like I said before, this was not the original stream. This was supposed to be a stream that was scheduled for tomorrow night. Um, but you know what? Sometimes it works out better this way. And I realize that most of the people are going to watch this stream in on the playback, which is perfectly fine with me. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. And and of course, all of you are welcome to enter comments after the stream is over. What I do, as of course, is please be respectable. Okay, we can disagree and be respectable. What gets to be an issue is that when people leave nasty and negative comments, which I end up having to delete. Okay, because I don't censor anyone other than I ask them to please keep it respectable. But I do appreciate everyone who appeared on the chat, and I also appreciate everyone who appeared on the panel, even if it is briefly. So, and usually when it comes to my streams, for the most part, I try to keep it under 2 hours, so it makes it easier um, for people to go through it. And also, let's keep it real. Many of you have very busy lives. You have responsibilities, so therefore, um, but I do appreciate the feedback. Okay, so I see that no one is going to. Okay, well, you know what? I'll drop the link one more. Okay, but the topic for tonight was what makes a cult. Okay, we're not here to catch judgment on anyone who does belong to a cult. We're not here to shame anyone who's involved in a cult. What we're doing is just simply stating the facts, and I actually have more information um, regarding all the cults. But I think with the examples that I was able to share, I think it was pretty clear what constitute a cult. Okay, and we need to be mindful that one person's one person's cult is another person's religion, which is why I stated at the beginning that we're not here to catch judgment, we're not here to shame anyone, we're not here to finger point. What we are here is to share what it is about, and then um, discuss what we can do to help these people to leave the call, should they wish to do so. So the next stream will be actually it'll be on Sunday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and actually it's going to be another round of and what that means is we're going to be talking about anything and everything other than FBA and ADOS. No disrespect meant to those communities. It's just that you know, we can have a discussion regarding one plus one is two, and seeing like regarding FBA and ADOS. So, with all due respect, if that's not the topic, I'm gonna ask that you don't please bring it up. And if you cannot respect that, guess what happens? You will be blocked. It is that simple. Well, and that being said, I do thank, excuse me, I do thank everyone for allowing me um, to enter in your devices and give something which is something you're never going to get back, which is your time. So that being said, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm just going to wish everyone a very pleasant good night. Have a week. Oh, I forget. Tomorrow it's worldwide AIDS recognition day. So, well, it's a day to recognize and remember all those that for whatever reason became infected with HIV and then they lost their lives. So let's keep these dear people in prayer. And instead of being judgmental about how they got it, let's just say a prayer for these people. So that being said, this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron, and I wish all of you a good night and a great weekend. Take care. Peace.
Strong.